And we should be live. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our November fiscal webinar, Black Friday Systems Readiness, How to Prep Since 7 for the Rush. I'm Haiku, and I'm excited to kick things off today. Black Friday and Cyber Monday are just around the corner, and for product-based businesses, that usually means two things. Opportunity, number one, but also chaos. It's the biggest week of the year for sales, but also the biggest stress test for your systems. So when order volume spikes, your success depends less on the discounts you're running and more on how your systems actually perform. Your Sin 7 configuration, your integrations, your warehouse processes, and how well your finance and ops teams move in sync. So that's what we'll be diving into today. This session is all about technical readiness, making sure your systems can handle the flood before it hits. So we're joined by two people who I can say know this space inside out. So firstly, it's Jaco, our CEO here at Fiskal, who helps product businesses systemize finance and operations for growth. And then also Christo, our COO, with hands-on experience optimizing Sin 7 environments, warehouse processes, and third-party integrations. Together, they'll cover how to prepare your inventory and warehouse for Black Friday demand, prevent sync errors and fulfillment chaos, and even plan your cash flow for the post-sale recovery. So we'll also leave plenty of time for questions at the end. That's a good reminder. So as Jaco and Christo walk through examples, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and we'll tackle as many as we can when we get there. With that, I'll hand things over to Jaco and Christo to get us started.
Great. Thank you very much, Haiku. Yeah, excited to be here and to be joined by Jaco. It's always good to join, to share my thoughts with Jaco and with all of you. So yeah, excited to get it going. As as Haiku mentioned, I'm the COO at Fiskal, and Jaco is our CEO. And yeah, between the two of us, we've got quite a few years of working with product-based businesses, helping them grow, and for today's topic, helping them get ready for big sales. So we're gonna jump straight into it. The agenda for today is we're gonna split things up into two sections. The first section would be operations, the second section finance, and from the operations side, we'll be going through things like how to communicate with your partners, making sure your warehouse is ready if you have your own one, how to manage your stock, managing the load, and from the finance perspective, looking at margins, pricing, and payment methods. Then we'll jump into a Q&A. Okay, so I think it's important before you start with your whole preparation for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, is to realize what do you want to achieve with the sales, and to ask yourself and your team that question. Typically, your goals could be to increase your customer base or your market share. Could be to make your customers a bit more loyal, the ones that are already buying it. Could be to clear old stock for upcoming new ranges, or just dead stock that you have that's tying up your cash, or using your best sellers and to upsell other products to your clients to buy, and also increasing your average order value through that. So
Christo, thank you for outlining the goals. Right, for any business, why this is so important is this will be the window in which you look at your decision making going forward from here, and really determine your strategy, and all the items that we speak about next, whether it be operations or finance, should be viewed in what is your business's target with or goal with Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And that will also determine how and which promotions or discounts you run, right?
I think it's also important, Jaco, to take a snapshot of where you are at the moment, to make sure that you actually achieve your goals with it, and take that and build on it for next year, because it's easy to forget what actually was your goal for the previous year when you start preparing again, and how you performed and what worked. So I would definitely make sure that I keep track of the changes that I made or the products that I sold at a discount, and how that was how that actually worked, if it worked. Yeah. Okay, so once we've got our goal in mind, then we start looking at our operations. So one of the crucial parts of an inventory business and sales is we have partners that we work with, right? So typically we've got some companies might have 3PLs, but all of them have shipping partners, right? So if you have your own warehouse or not, you would definitely have a shipping partner. And it's important to let them know beforehand that, one, you're actually doing a sale. So if they haven't reached out to you yet, make sure that you let them know that you are going to sell. You're going to participate in Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then make sure that you send them forecasts. The reason for that is it helps them to prepare, right? Imagine you having multiple clients and you've got no idea what to expect from the volumes, except that it's going to be a lot. So it's very important to let them know so that they can also make any arrangements on their side. If it's a 3PL, make sure that their warehouses are set up correctly. And that also helps us if you've got specific forecasts or targets that you want to reach and you're confident to reach, you can also negotiate better rates with your partners. So once again, if it's a 3PL or a shipping partner, you could say, well, if I hit these volumes, can you give me a discount? Which, I mean, we all know you're discounting on your side. So every bit of discount that you can get from your suppliers or vendors will help increase your margin. Then it's also important to make sure that you coordinate pickup times with your shipping partner, and also just make sure that you've got a backup if for some reason your shipping partner can't help you, or their hub or integration fails, then you have somebody else to fall back on. Because what we've seen in the past is that there's a big pile up of stock, and the shipping partners aren't actually picking it up. So then you need to move over to a different carrier. All right. So once you've got your partners ready and prepped and hopefully negotiated better rates, it's important to look at your own warehouse if you have one. Right. So when you look at your own logistics, it's important to not only prepare your warehouse, but prepare your team, right? Because there's going to be a massive influx of orders. You want to get them out as soon as possible. That's really a big test to see if you can hit your internal KPIs for order fulfillment, even though you've got a big influx of sales. So to ensure that you're ready for that, make sure you've got all the consumables you need, all the packaging tape. If you have shipping partners and they use specific bags or labels that you need to print, make sure you've got all those consumables and extras, right? You don't want to have delays because you didn't order enough shipping labels. So make sure that you've got all your consumables ready. Then make sure that, if possible, that you have your warehouse or rearrange your warehouse, that you have the items that you're looking to sell for bigger discounts and your best sellers close to hand. That just really helps to take the time from initiating your picking to fulfilling your order, just makes it quicker. If you can, if you're selling bundles and if you have time to do that, do a pre-packing of your bundles. That could also really help to make it one pick on the day, not 3 picks if it's a bundle of 3. So make sure that if it's possible that you pre-pack those bundles and put them separately so that you can quickly grab them and just make that time quicker. Then make sure that you prep your staff, as I mentioned. If there's increased working hours because you want to get your orders out quickly, prep your staff beforehand, set up shift rosters. If you need to increase your staff, make sure they come in a couple of days beforehand for some training. Make sure that they also in a roster, that they paired with more experienced warehouse staff. And yeah, just make sure that you run a tight ship there and you have somebody on site or in your warehouse that can always sort out the problem if a problem arises, which with the influx of orders will in most cases happen. So make sure you've got somebody that can take responsibility and sort out any issues. Then in terms of returns, just make sure that you have thought about that, because with the influx of orders during Black Friday and Cyber Monday, inevitably your return rate will increase. So make sure that you are ready for that, your customer support team is ready for that, and your warehouse team as a way to deal with those. So this is a good time to also just look at your returns process and policy. Then when you look at your stock management, obviously you want to be able to fulfill what you sell, right? So if for some reason you do have, you do have the ability, not for some reason, if you have the ability to rapidly produce stock or package stock, you might want to activate the functionality that you can oversell in your e-commerce store. So that would mean that your stock can go into a negative, if I can say it that way. And that means you've got confidence that you can rapidly produce the stock or package the stock that's needed to send out. Obviously, with this, if you choose to do that, make sure that your integration, if you're using Sin7, that your integration can handle that, number one. And number two, that you are still monitoring the number of units that are being sold in that way, so that you can also stop that if you see it's getting out of hand. So if there might be too many of those orders coming in which you won't be able to fill, you can throttle those and or switch off that product specifically. Then on Amazon sales channel, it's important to identify a couple of products which you feel confident that you'll be able to service through FBM, so that you can switch it over between FBA if you run out of stock there, that you're keeping an eye on that, switch it over to FBM, and yeah, that you can fulfill more orders and capture more of those sales. If you're working with distributors, make sure that you let them know about the discounts that you want to manage, and make sure that they are aware of the stock that you have on hand, that they're not also doing the same as you're doing, which might be overselling and thinking you can produce, and then your distributors might be thinking of overselling on their side because they think you might have stock. So just have that conversation with any of their distributors trying to run, or that's also going to run specials. And then a trick that you can also use is buy online, pick up in store. So if you have a brick and mortar store and you're selling through e-commerce, you can also include the stock that you've got in store, either pull that stock to your warehouse or activate the functionality to buy online and pick up in store. All right, then from a practical perspective, it's always going to be better for you to spread your load in terms of the orders coming in. So if you, we can look at things like early access. So early access helps with, extending your typical 3 days or 5 days to maybe a 12-day, which is common in Amazon actually, or even more days. And that also can build a bit of brand loyalty. You can farm a couple of emails also, which is important, because typically people would need to sign up before they get access to the early access deals. And you can build a community that is aware of you doing that, which can help in the future to increase your sales as well. Another technique is to communicate that there will be new deals daily. So spreading what deals you run each day could also work. So starting out with, obviously you want to sell as much as possible, but every new day add in a new product that already has a high sales velocity that shows you that people want that product. So adding those in there almost as a, I'm not going to say a loss leader, but as bait almost for people to come back into your store, buy one of those, but increase their average order value with other items that are also on sale to maybe get free shipping. So there's also a way to do that. Then if you do see if all of your techniques didn't work and you see that the load is too much and there's going to be delays, just make sure that you have a way to communicate that to your clients, right? It's also all about managing expectations. So that could be a banner on your website saying we're going to, expect delays of X, Y, and X amount of days before we'll be able to fulfill your order. Typically, customers are aware that during these high order times, or over periods like Black Friday or Cyber Monday, that there might be delays, as long as you communicate it. And yeah, I have a couple of draft emails ready for from your customer support, or have templates ready for if clients start following up on their orders, and make sure that you also proactively communicate those delays. So that is it from the operations side. Making sure that everything is ready for you or for your clients, that you can manage what you need to from an operations and logistics perspective, empower your partners, and make sure that things go as smoothly as possible from a logistics side of things. I'm gonna hand over to Jaco. Before that, Jaco, do you have any comments or questions before we move into your section?
Yes, Christo, thank you. I was about to ask, in your experience, what have you seen as as pitfalls, two things that have gone horribly wrong, and the result of that operationally on Black Friday?
So what I've seen is quite a big thing is not having accurate stock levels and then overselling stock that it's not possible for you to get hold of. That's typically just creates customer dissatisfaction.
Right.
So it's about that expectation management. And what's quite interesting is in those scenarios, we've even tried. I've seen that the customers have tried to give higher value items instead of the ordered items, but the end user or the customer that bought the products wasn't actually happy with that, right? Even if it was, in our eyes, we're giving you more value, from a business perspective, more value is going out, but the customer doesn't perceive it in that way. So that's, I suppose, one of the biggest ones. And not communicating with your partners. That's why it was almost number one. Not preparing them for what you're about to do.
Well, 100%. That's why I asked, because that's also what I've seen is the accurate stock levels or unintentionally overselling certain product line items, and then having to deal with the customer queries afterwards, or on as you can say, supplementing the basket, or changing the product. And even if though it's a higher value product, the customer's experience was impacted, right? So accurate stock levels on the website or wherever you're selling, and that pulls through accurate, up to date, is probably very the number one I would take away from a operations finance point of view.
So from a practical standpoint, how to manage that also is you could put in buffer stock in your syncs to your e-commerce channels from your IMS. In this case, obviously, we prefer Sin7 Core. So in your integration with, let's say, Shopify, you can put in some buffer stock. So that's always a good place to start. Then once you hit that buffer stock, go and count some of those SKUs that have hit the buffer stock and see if
Mm.
you've got more stock actually, that you can then put it again, make it available on the site. That also kind of refreshes the catalog again.
Awesome. Thank you, Christo.
Great.
That was very
Okay.
insightful. So if we move over to finance, and you've touched it on already, right? But I probably cannot emphasize this enough, is you cannot plan for Black Friday sales, deals, or promotions if you do not know what your margins are and you know what you're making on a per channel basis, on a net sales basis, right? Knowing what your margins are on a per SKU, what the margins are for bundles. If you are doing add-ons on your store, like what is the margin implication of that? Accurate landed costs, making sure that those have been incorporated in the inventory management system. If you are manufacturing, make sure all the conversion costs has been incorporated in your planning. Big one, obviously, for Black Fridays is the outbound shipping cost as well. Make sure that you've got a real handle on what that is on a per SKU level or a per product or a bundle that you're selling. Merchant charges, make sure you're aware of per channel and also per payment method that you're using. What are those charges, and that you've incorporated that into your planning, especially when you're thinking about promotions and discounts. And as you've also mentioned, the 3PL charges. And that's really the starting point, right? That has to be accurate so that we can start planning. And you need a good report and a good inventory management system, and make sure that that's readily available. Because if we move over to the next point, it's going to go, what goes hand in hand with, if I know what my margins are on a per channel basis, the next one you also mentioned is I really need to know what my inventory availability is on a per SKU level or a bundle or add-ons, and we need to have that on hand. Then I'm going to talk a bit about, this comes back to the framing that we started off with, is saying, are we looking to gain market share, net new customers, right? That's a different strategy. Or are we looking to get rid of old stock or end of range stock? Because now we need to have an inventory aging report. Have a look at our stock on hand, review to say, is there old stock, is there dead stock that we really want to convert to cash, and that will have a promotion or a discount implication. Right, the next one is inventory velocity report. Now, all of these are readily available in Sin7 Core, our preferred inventory management system, right? But make sure that you can access that, because if you do have slow movers, this is an opportunity to perhaps bump them up in the list. If you have ranges, seasonality, like any of the apparel ranges that you want to get rid of, they might not be old, they might not have an issue with velocity, but you want to get rid of that range before you add on the next range, because then they will become redundant in the next season, right? So it's about planning that out. If you do have written down inventory items or inventory items that you still feel you could sell, you need to know what they are, and you need to have them in your report. The next,
Okay. Sorry, if I might, what is
yes,
how would you approach if you wanted to add any, let's say, some of your top sellers, how would you approach discounts on them? Just like how do you decide which best sellers we maybe do some discount on?
well, I think it will lead into my next slide. But the again, it comes back to the framing of the window that we're looking for. What are we trying to achieve? And if it's best sellers and it is getting market share or net new customers, and I know which products my best sellers are. If you go over to the next slide, right? This is just a framework that I look at for when evaluating like promotions and discounts and percentages, because this is the next step, right? Is to say which products, SKUs or bundles are high volume and high margin, like in the right top hand corner there, right? So those are my best sellers, and those are the ones I would those are the ones that I would add a discount on, if I want to gain net new market share, is discount that on Black Friday. And I know, I've got a margin, a gross profit margin on a contribution basis, right? Like after all my charges are down, it's at 50%. I know I can do a promotion at 15% or 20%, and I'm still making money, but I'm actually gaining new customers. And we've got to focus then on how to get them to return, right? So obviously most businesses like the top right hand corner, high volume, high margin products. Those are the ones that we can discount comfortably, if we know, discount comfortably to gain new market share and have those customers come back. The next quadrant we'll be looking at is high volume, low margin products, right? Those I would be more careful of discounts and promotions if I'm looking to gain net new customers. But this is business specific. You need to understand your value proposition to the customer. I can think about two scenarios already where certain customers have got high volume, low margin products, but those are the hooks, right? That's how they get the customers to become a customer. It's a larger purchase. It's high order value, but then they come back for high volume, high margin items, right? And that's how they increase the lifetime value of the customer. So it really, again, comes back to the window of how are you approaching, what is your strategy, what makes most sense for your business, because then you can potentially discount that as well, because that's your hook. That's how you get customers on the line. So then you would potentially discount your high volume, low margin items. Then you've got low volume, high margin items, right? So these are the slower movers, but to keep them on track, they increase, but either lifetime value or average order value for customers. Low volume, high margin items, you might potentially use them as add-ons in your checkout, and increase the order value of the sale. And then the last quadrant is your low volume, low margin items. Again, if we're looking to move dead stock, right? If these are items that sits in this quadrant, you can add a promotion or discount those products to get them onto convert them into cash, right? And then I can use the cash in different aspects of my business again. Right.
Jaco, in those cases, would you even go below cost?
Again, this is the way that from a business perspective, it is company specific. But right, if I'm sitting with dead stock, like stock that I really am struggling to convert, I would go down below cost, because in those scenarios, the cash in hand means more than the stock that I'm struggling to convert. And
especially if you're paying like storage fees for that, with your
100%, right? It's incurring charges. It's still incurring charges. And classic framing should be, don't think about what the items cost backwards looking, but look at what you can convert it at forward looking. What is the potential? What can I do with it? It might look good on the balance sheet, but if it's stock that's not converting into cash, it's actually an issue. So I would go below cost if it really isn't moving.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right, because that goes right into my next slide, is pricing and discounts. Because if you have your quadrants and you know what your slow movers are and you know what you're trying to achieve, you can add discount ranges now. You know what your margins are. Now you can say, okay, we can go right up to, and we can model, how does price reductions affect those gross margins? And we can set limits. We can instruct sales and marketing on how far they can go. And then we can ensure that the volume gains outweigh margin compression, right? And just as a point, right, you can calculate what's the break-even point then for a bundle or bundled offers, or even if you want to do flash sales leading up to Black Friday, what is the break-even point for that flash sale? But again, it starts with the margins and knowing what we want to achieve. We can communicate with sales and marketing, right? This is one of the key points, is make sure everyone's on the same page. I've seen this a lot of times where marketing has got an idea, and sales have got an idea of where they want to be going, but they're actually discounting further than what our break even is for this period. And that's just a communication. That's just the lack of communication or departmental interaction before the sale. And the main thing you mentioned, right, is to track. Let's track revenue during the event. Let's see how things are going, and then we can pivot or action if we have any underperforming product lines, or if marketing spends on certain items are higher than anticipated versus. So the main thing is it's a proactive monitoring of the sale while it's happening, to make
It'll
sure
also
that
be quite fun to monitor it and see if your strategy is working or not.
Exactly.
Involve the team, put it up on a big screen, see if it's working.
100%. I mean, and then the next one, why that monitoring becomes so important, is analyze post-event effects. You mentioned the increase in returns. We've seen a lot of times that you've run a sale, you've run a discount, but now our returns percentage have increased over and above what was expected, and that's also cannibalized the earnings that we had. So those are the post. Make sure the monitoring and tracking happens so that you can action for next and learn from this process, right? The last thing you want to do is discount products and lines, and then actually returns just increase, and it actually cannibalizes all the gains that you've made on the Black Friday sale. Right. Next up is shipping. So shipping, obviously, as you know, you need a well-crafted shipping policy, and it's crucial for driving sales volumes while safeguarding your margins, right? It's one of those items that directly influences customer satisfaction, return rates, and our operational costs. So we suggest offering a mix, standard shipping, expedited shipping, and premium options, but having those pricing clearly available as well. And also that your policy have been well modeled to know how does these shipping tiers affect our overall margins. And then with shipping, if you want to increase, it's one of those strategies where you can increase average order value if you offer free shipping. But that also has to be modeled out to know with your margins and your channels that you're targeting with your strategy, know where that threshold sits of where you're offering free shipping to increase the average order volume. And as you've already mentioned, you can actually negotiate some volume discounts with your carriers if you hit certain targets advance, and you can potentially get up to 10 to 15%. If you've communicated with your providers upfront. Yeah, and then the next one, which is really crucial from a finance point of view, is the payment methods. And this is one that during sales and during Black Friday, the most important is happy customer, and that we are able to complete orders, and we don't have abandoned carts or things that time out during your purchase experience. So best is to offer a mix of payment options, right? Include debit and credit cards, digital wallets like Apple Pay and Google Pay. and certain businesses move to, can add PayPal or Venmo, but it's really up to you. The idea is just to have diverse methods so it's easier for the customer to buy, and also potentially incorporate buy now, pay later options. They do come with higher charges, but they can increase average order value as well, and make sure that you've got a good handle on what that is. And then clearly display those checkouts on the website and the pricing of that if you're using credit card or if you're uncharging certain items. Make sure the customer is aware of what those charges are. But the main one here is also have multiple payment gateways, not just from a customer point of view, but to be able to supplement or move over if you have issues during high volume. Because we've also seen that certain payment providers have experienced volume issues, and then you must be able to pivot to another payment method. And you don't want to experience this during Black Friday on the day, and then you have to have another, try and incorporate a different payment method, right? That's the reason for having multiple payment methods as a fallover and a backup as well, not just from a customer experience point of view, but from operational point of view, that we can ensure that customers can actually check out and make payment. And just take into account the timing of them and the cash flow coming back, so all the different payment methods and what is that agreed payment terms when that actually clears into your bank account, and how does that affect your cash flow during this period, right? That while your money is potentially sitting with Amazon before it hits your bank account, and make sure that you've taken that into account for the weeks after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, to make sure that you know what the cash flow impact is of the payment methods that you've chosen. Yeah. Is there any questions, Christo, from your side on shipping and payment methods?
Yeah. I was just wondering from the shipping perspective, have you seen that backup shipping partners are open to negotiations on their pricing before? Is that something that's common, even if they are aware that they are backups? Do you communicate that even?
Yeah, not from backups, right? It's usually your main shipping partners and with the targets that you can set up. I haven't seen a backup partner being, coming in for discounts, only when they're trying to get you as a customer, right? If they're in that sales period and they want to hook you, then there's a potential. But I haven't seen backup shipping partners willing to give discounts if we communicate upfront. I tend to think on Black Friday and Cyber Monday more about what you know and what's trusted. It's all about being able to ride the wave of increased sales and having partners on board that can fulfill and make sure that the customer experience stays exceptional throughout this period.
So you're saying it's not the best time to change your website or your 3PL?
Exactly. Or test. Well, no, I would say test. I would say if you're testing, it's within the Black Friday, Cyber Monday framework, right? But for me, it's about consistency, and it's not the best time, like you said, to change your website and have that experience before Black Friday.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think we went through quite a few things. During the session, and our time together is almost up. I just want to look at the key takeaways for this session. I think these are the main things to keep in mind while you're preparing for the sale. So number one, determine your why. And this is not just obviously for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, but for any type of sale, Prime Day, just end of range sales you might be running. Know why you're doing it. Get your partners aligned. That's important. Without them, you can't do much. Get them aligned. negotiate better terms if possible, or volume discounts. Organize your internal operations. So we focused a lot on the logistics side of things, but also make sure that whoever is setting up your website, listing products on there, any of those kind of functionalities as well, doing discount codes, make sure that's tested. So align your internal setup. And then, as Jaco explained, make sure you know what your margins are. Then that the discounts you're running isn't hurting you, unless you want it to hurt you in the case of the low volume, low margin products potentially. And number 5, make sure you can sell. And that's that has to do with the payment methods, but also don't experiment too hard with your website. If you're doing that, don't experiment too hard with any other systems. Just make sure you can keep it simple. Make sure you can take the money, make the sale, and ultimately rely on your whole infrastructure to keep the clients happy and support them after the sale if needed. All right. That is it from Jaco and myself.
All right, thanks guys. That was very informative. So I just wanted to drop in here quickly and just say that Fiskal, we work a lot with these systems, so we do know these systems inside and out. And I do want to point out here that Fiskal was recently also appointed the Accounting Partner of the Year by Sin7. So that just highlights the fact that it's not just the one side, we're operational and financial experts. So ongoing partner for all stages of growth. We know the industries, we know the software, and we have our proprietary methods of reporting. So yeah, I think it's a great combination. There's a QR code on the screen to book a call, or you can even book like a 30-minute systems audit. Yeah, just keeping that there for a few seconds. But otherwise, if you guys are ready, then we can go over to the Q&A.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go over. So we did receive a few questions, so I'm going to bring them up and then we can address them. Yeah, you guys can decide who goes first. So we've got a question from John Ray. He asks, would it be worth stress testing our integrations and fulfillment teams?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Integrations, I think, once again, stress testing can be a bit difficult to do in some cases. So hopefully you have a pretty stable integration already. And through daily sales, you can see that it is working. Now is not the time to go too experimental. Stick to your guns or reach out to us if you need any help. And in terms of fulfillment teams, you can run a few scenarios, but you'll never be able to really simulate the rush of the day. So yes, good training, preparation, maybe timing the average time to fulfill a typical order can be something that's useful, but unfortunately, it's one of those things that you will only be able to stress test on the day or on the days.
Okay. Jaco, anything to add to that?
I mean, from my side, it's just whatever discount, I mean, Christo mentioned it already, whatever discounts you're offering, promotions, anything new, bundles, make sure that that pulls through correct and you've tested those and you've done those tests preemptively, and see how the systems interact with that. So that's just something that you have to do pre-sale, because otherwise you might have 2,000 or 3,000 issues to deal with as they rack up quite quickly during Black Friday. And those are the only real tests I think you can look at. And also maybe potentially think about, if you have integrations, what are the integration limitations? What if it is a Shopify syncing to Sin7 core, right? Know what those limits are of that API and how much can it handle. I mean, it is very robust. I'm just using her as an example. We haven't seen issues with that, but make sure that you know what those API limitations is of the systems that you're using.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense. So then we've got a question from Alex, who asks, what margin or break-even metrics should you know and consider before approving flash sales or discount bundles?
Everything. All margins and break-even metrics. That's the ones you need to know,
Good
right?
answer.
The point is, again, I will maybe pull it back and say start off with the framing of what do you want to achieve, what's your goal, and what your goal is will determine which are the most important break-even metrics or margin metrics that you're looking for. It's those ones that will underpin the goal that you're trying to achieve are obviously going to be the most important. But from a finance side, I always say you need to know all of them. And you need to have that information readily available.
Yeah, I think the most important part is segmenting your products, like Jaco did. So know the metrics for all of those segmented in a way that makes sense to you.
Okay, cool. So I think we have time for one last question. So let's take John, who actually sent another one. Then he asks, what contingency plans should every business have in case of system downtime or API issues during peak hours? That's a good question.
Yeah, so in terms of system downtime, luckily we're in an environment where it's mostly cloud-based. So the advantage of that is it's quite stable and limited downtime. But the reality is, if you have system downtime, you're quite a bit at the mercy of what is, where that system sits in your infrastructure or in your chain or ecosystem. So let's say, for instance, your e-commerce site is down. I mean, there's not much you can do. Make sure you've got a specialist that maybe can help you with that. But let's say something like Shopify, if that's down, it's a whole different way it's going to be a whole different way to handle it versus if you've got a WooCommerce store, which you have a bit more control over. So it depends on where that sits. Let's say, for instance, your integration fails during between your IMS and your e-commerce site. You can always use your e-commerce site to check the orders and start fulfilling them from that side, and just do the administration in your IMS at a later stage. So thinking about those, a great question, is a good idea, just knowing like what kind of backups or what kind of workarounds you can do. But typically in a cloud-based environment, as we operate, there's not much. You can't have a extra server running in your back office. Yeah, so we don't have those contingencies.
I would just mention again on this point is actively monitoring how things are going. What is your customer service team feeding back to you, right? Because I mean, we've had scenarios we've seen where due to, I can say, setup failures, that stock levels weren't updating accurately up to website. So customers ran the risk of overselling in a certain item that they don't want to go to back order, and during sales switching over to manual, right, breaking the integration, going manual and actually updating every few hours the stock availability on the website. But like I said, the point is they could action it. It's about having the team available and knowing what is running when to be able to react to any of those types of scenarios. It's not ideal, but the point is they were still able to sell and still able to collect, and that's the main thing. Is obviously you want to avoid as much systems downtime as possible, but the key here is to say that we still want to be selling and we still want to be collecting, and those are the main priorities during a sale period.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, sales should obviously be the priority, and if the systems aren't there or they're not doing what they're supposed to, then sales are going to get a hit. All right, thanks so much, guys. I think that's all we have time for today. I just wanted to say thanks for the presentation. I learned a lot. So I'm really looking forward to the next one. And so if anyone watching also wants to watch the next one, keep tabs on our socials, on our website. We'll also have a sign up registration form again. So yeah, we'll see everyone in the next one.
Thank you,
Awesome. Thank you very much.